Some games start as something majestic and unique, but end up somewhere in a completely unfamiliar territory. And I have no idea how is this even relevant to today's game. Good morning, you beautiful ladies and gentlemen. Angry Ducky here with a brand new episode of Duck in Games, the post-COVID edition. Yes, I have survived the virus, so we can continue our chat about video games and joy they bring us with their gameplay features, music, level design, and sometimes even the gunplay for the ages. Meet Doom 3, the game that exploded every video game news outlet when it was first announced. ID Software have managed to make everyone want the game even before they showed the gameplay footage or even the graphics. Mostly because everyone knew ID Software doesn't make bad games like they don't make bad shotguns. Oh boy, we were naive back then, how easily we were bamboozled and misled. But all in its due time. Doom, the original game, was heavily inspired by the Aliens movie, and young and really inspired creators of it wanted to make something that will resemble alien aesthetics and capture the feeling of being trapped in a confined space with the horrific monsters and having to go through and achieve victory, you know? It's a horror that suddenly was changed into a very fun shooter. Yes, Doom was planned as a horror thing, but then someone at the ID Software said, "Hey peeps, I'm not having fun with it, let's make this fun." And they did. They made a game into a shooter from the horror something. And things went from good to even better. Although today Doom single player is quite outdated, back in the day it was something, really something. And the multiplayer LAN parties, more user-generated content than ever before, than any game ever before had. A sequel that decided to fix the main problems the original had, like adding more monsters and more weapons, and of course, more levels, harder levels, better levels. Oh boy, all of that was thanks to someone making sure the game was fun to play. Maybe it was Romero, maybe it was Carmack, maybe it was somebody else. I cannot know. But all we know, it was fun for those who developed it. After Doom 2 came out, we had some troubled development of Quake. John Romero leaving ID Software and Quake 2 proving that you can make fun gunplay boring. Because you can make anything, the world is your oyster. And then, after so many years of making Quake and perfecting the multiplayer, ID Software decided to go and pick up the heritage they had in the fun days. They decided to make the next Doom. Of course, as it usually went, the next game should be on the next gen engine. And Doom 3 was the first and not the best game on the ID Tech 4. That's the name of the engine. This engine has a very tight competition. But the new engine came in with some new contemporary first-person shooter genre annoyances. In Doom 3, only 2 weapons don't need to reload: your fists and the chainsaw. And yes, people at ID Software did spend a considerable amount of time explaining why there is a chainsaw on Mars. Don't worry about that. Oh, right. Yeah, and we're on Mars now, not Phobos. Yeah, but that was not explained really. God damn it, let's start from the beginning, alright? You are nameless but not faceless UAC Marine arriving on Mars because reasons. You are never explained anything about your transfer nor about the background of your Marine. The only thing you should know about this Marine is that he's never in a hurry and always late. Because he's not going to run. Leisurely walk, that's more of his turf. Run for your Marine life is not about this guy. And don't get me wrong, you can sprint. The thing is, it's like changing pace from walk to walk faster. i.e. useless. When you need to quickly get away from Pinky charging you or even the gargoyle clawing towards you, you are going to lose this race. Seriously. And you better get used to it earlier, because there will be a lot of times you will wish you could have moved faster. Oh, you wish. Anyway, with you a council member of UAC arrived. His name is Swan, and he is the one unhappy about Dr. Betruger, the dude who's doing some science in the Mars facility, and he's unhappy about the progress of whatever research they are doing. Although, it's weird that they never mentioned the fact that there was a huge excavation on Mars. Which is weird to me considering the amount of work they put into explaining how the chainsaws got to Mars and how to play Turkey Puncher, how to use BFG, and why the plasma guns are everywhere. But never mind all that. They are unhappy about something else. But don't worry, we're going to learn something eventually, because after all, we're the only survivor. Spoiler alert, oh wait, it's too late, never mind. So far we just play around the facility, enjoy Super Turkey Puncher, and chat with some people around the canteen. This part of the game should make you familiar with some mechanics like talking, interacting with objects, even sprinting, and so on. Place is not well lit, but it's not as dark as it could have been. Your first task is to bring back some scientists. You get the pistol, and this is one of the most useless weapons to ever appear in any game ever. Doom 3 steadily goes on with the tradition of Doom 1 and 2. Pistol is useful until you get something better. After that, it's just an occupied weapon slot and you're never going to use it. But this time, it's nothing to worry about. You go through some really dark places until you find the scientist you were looking for. Hooray, mission accomplished. But he's scared, and he says that the hell is real, and the devil is real, and this particular scientist helped to build the devil's cage. And of course, this is the point where demons start to invade the facility. There are many varieties of enemies in Doom 3, and most of them are being presented with a short cutscene. But some are just like that. For example, zombies. Zombies are just zombies. They come in two flavors, normal zombie and a fat zombie. Fat zombie obviously takes more hits to stay down. Then Imp. This dude has a very good cutscene. It introduces the looks, it introduces the ways it attacks, it even introduces the fact that imps like to hide some places dark. Imp is one of the only monster that will be with you throughout the whole game. From the very beginning, when it's presented with a short but effective cutscene, to the time when you fight the final boss, Cyber Demon, again spoiler alert. Doom 3 has a nice variety of monsters really. They could be a bit more distinct or could have been more useful in the environment that was created, but we've got what we've got. The variety is there, at least the variety is there. We have two types of melee zombies, zombie soldiers with shotguns or rifles, imps, gargoyles, some abomination, zombie with some Nazi helmet, same zombie but with a chain gun, Pinky Demon which is not pink at all, Revenant, Cacodemon, Lost Soul, Hell Knight, Archvile, Fly Babies, Spiders, Mancubi, Telekinetic Spiders, and some one-time boss enemies. Yeah, that's a really nice variety. But what do I mean by monsters could have been more useful? Monsters are disconnected from the environment they are in. Well, most of them are disconnected. Imps are usually hiding behind the doors or in some sort of closet to jump on the player. And it works, it really works. Cacodemons almost work, they float around unpredictably in the dark places, and it's not easy to target them while they can target you with a good precision. Two good choices so far. The only trouble with Cacodemons, there are not enough high spaces or just big arenas for Cacodemons to float. Zombies are just a complete mandatory filler enemy. The ones that can only melee you could have been used as a crowd control for the player movement to direct the player to imps or something like that, but the environment is already confined so much so it's not needed. So, including those zombies, it's a really missed opportunity to work more on some other enemies as useful as an imp. Pinky demons are also scarce because they aren't enough arenas to allow the player to move freely and not get instantly mauled by the demon, which is faster and tougher than you are. Same goes with the Mancubi. They appear twice. Once in the arena fight somewhere in the Martian sewers, and the second time in hell. In every other place they just can't fit, and there is no way you can go around fighting them. So Mancubi is another missed opportunity. Nazi zombies are creation of Betrüger when he decided to hunt you down. After encountering those, you don't encounter any marine zombies. I assume that Betrüger just transforms every marine zombie into the Nazi zombie, which is weird but understandable. But with the marine zombies, you could use covers and utilize your weapons as if it's a modern shooter, with covers and waiting for enemy to reload. All of that stuff that you can find in the contemporary shooter. Tactically, strategically thinking, not just running and gunning. Yeah. With the Nazi zombies, you can only spray and pray because they run full speed towards you, and it's also faster than you can sprint, yeah. And they slap you with their tentacle. The tentacle has a really, really wide reach, so you cannot hide from that. I would say that those are a complete miss as well, because using a boomer shooter enemy in the modern shooter will always feel a little bit odd and a little bit off. But can you see it already? The environment you are in and the gameplay mechanics you have to endure conflict with the monsters, and those have to be used in a very specific environment or in a very specific ways. Once again, apart from some of them, imps are still perfect everywhere. I already mentioned that cacodemons could have been a great element of player control, but if you move too slow to evade their projectiles' area of effect, and there aren't enough spacious maps to place cacodemons there, it's a complete waste of cacodemon. Again, Hell Knights. Hell Knights are the worst so far. They have a projectile that have splash damage, just like cacodemons, and they are healthy boys. First you meet them in the arena that is so small you either have a BFG, if you are smart enough to read audio logs and emails, and of course, you were interested in getting one. Or run like you are a bunny being hunted. I used BFG because it's quite easy to find it, but before that I tried to deal with those with a more conventional weapons, and I died pretty fast and very inglorious. What could go wrong if the arena was bigger? Like, big enough to fight a slow and healthy enemy with all the arsenal you can muster? I think nothing would have been lost, but hey, I can understand this reference to Hell Knights before you enter Hell itself. It's like 2 Barons of Hell in Doom 1 before you enter the Hell itself. But in Doom 1 you had the speed and you had quite a big arena. In Doom 3, environmental designers seem to have never talked to monster designers, who seem to have never talked to people who designed the gameplay. But we'll have it all later. Right now we really need to get back to our Marine HQ, and Sarge is acting weird all the time, giving orders for us to wander around about alone and find the team. It's like a suicide mission. Teams are going down, everybody's going down, but hey, you can totally go alone and find your team. I believe in you. Thanks, Sarge. The team that nearly destroys us all by almost blowing up the reactor. So what do? We have to go and fix the reactor, which we do. And this part feels more like a side quest than anything else in the game. We just go around solving puzzles, killing undead marines and imps, Nothing too hard, but everything is so dark. This is the time when we should address something a lot of people have some very strong opinion about. Doom 3 and the darkness. Doom 1 and Doom 2 had their fair share of the dark areas, but no one remembers them fondly. Seriously. You can ask anybody, what about the Doom 1 Dark Labyrinth? Nobody remembers that as the best part of the whole game. That's why, while designing Doom 3, ID Software decided to make the whole game like that. Yes, in Doom 3 you have a flashlight, but you can either use a flashlight or use any of your weapons, which means that you are in a situation that feels the most artificial. You have a light source, but you are too stupid to make the light source useful when you're firing at something. I know that a lot of people fiercely defended these decisions, stating that it adds to the atmosphere and that making your player choose between seeing where you shoot and actually shooting at it is a very intricate and clever choice. But you know what tells tales about that? The fact that in the BFG edition of Doom 3, the re-release, you can use flashlight and the gun simultaneously. And I can confirm it. It's not fun when you have to take a shotgun blast in the dark and hope that you can remember where to fall back, because the screen is just black. There is no indication of anything at all. You're firing in the blackness. If you hit something, you see the red donut. If you didn't, you don't see the red donut. In this case, what do? Where is the enemy? You don't know. Fun, isn't it? Yes, we're the plebs who were not really for this kind of gameplay. I agree. But think about it this way. Amnesia, Penumbra, Outlast, all of these horror games had their way of making the player see what is happening around. The main gameplay for them was hiding and evading the enemies. When you have to turn off the light to be better at hiding, it's only logical. In Doom 3, the main gameplay is walking like it's your day off and shooting things. When you shoot things, you want to see where you're shooting. It's also logical, and it's a basic gun safety. Still don't believe me? That Bravo team that you were supposed to contact and join died because they did not see where to shoot, and they couldn't see where the attacks were coming from. The game itself tells you that choosing to see or to shoot is a stupid way to die. You can stop pretending that the decision was great. It was not great. But yeah, the game is really dark, and the first half is really much darker than the last part. Hell is not shiny as well, which is kind of logical, but it doesn't make it easier, especially when Betrugger takes away your weapons and you have to kill imps with a pistol again. Hooray, fun! Although I'm still confused why did it happen, but we will get to that. And since we started to talk about weapons, while you are going to stop the meltdown of the Alpha Labs, you're going to stick mostly to two guns, assault rifle and a shotgun. You will not find much difference between those really, because one shoots nerf darts in hope that the demon will die from a heart attack, and the other has such a spread that it's unreliable anywhere but up close, where you can melee your enemy with the stock and deal the same amount of damage. People over the internet tell each other that Doom 3 shotgun is actually the best gun to ever bless our PCs and sometimes consoles. And the reason for that are similar to reason defending the darkness. It's the gun that makes you go up close and personal to your enemy and dance a little dance with the imps, where you shoot them up close, step back, step forward and shoot again. Good gun. I mean, maybe it's a good gun for you because you like playing those little dances with imps and other monsters, but hey, some people enjoy having a gunplay when you have a gun and the gun just makes holes in enemies, make alive enemies dead enemies. In this case, this shotgun is not for you. There you go, case closed. Having a shotgun that is so unreliable is a suicide, and every Martian Marine deserved their fate for having unreliable weapon on them. Do you agree that it's better to have no immersion whatsoever, or do you think that shotgun could be improved? It's up to you. I mean, seriously, you decide. I don't like Doom 3 shotgun. To me, it feels like the shotgun was created and then was heavily nerfed because it was just too OP. It was good for medium ranges, good for long ranges, and good up close. So they had to nerf it. And they did it by making spread so unbelievably bad. But to be honest, the gun with that much of a spread doesn't work with a bad lighting. Or in case of Doom 3, without any lighting at all. You cannot see anything, and sometimes you will have to wait in the darkness to demon to slowly walk towards you before you shoot it with a shotgun, because you could not do that earlier. The demon would have survived. And those are just my reasons why shotgun is bad in Doom 3. You may have your reasons for anything, for it to be good, for it to be bad. As I said it already, it's up to you to decide, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Interestingly enough, other weapons aren't bad, but everything needs to be reloaded. You have fists that you will never use apart from that one time you had a berserk pack in hell, and you have a chainsaw that needs no reloading. Chainsaw could be a good weapon, but enemies have invulnerability during attack animations, and it makes chainsaw, let's say, a bit useless. You could imagine that catching charging imp on a chainsaw will hurt an imp more than it will hurt you. And you will be wrong. Completely, entirely wrong. Imp will have no damage at all. And I'm sure if you ask people who wanted to make darkness and more spread from the shotgun, they will tell you that it's a good thing to make monsters invincible while they're performing their attacks. But hey, I'm not one of them, so I'll say it's not a good idea to make chainsaw useless like that. These frames of invincibility renders chainsaw useless, one of the weapons that could have shined. But oh well, other weapons are fine. Maybe good, really good. Chain gun is a good boss defeater. A rocket launcher is a very handy way of dealing with imps, gargoyles and zombies. Plasma gun has a purring sound when you reload it. I absolutely love it. BFG now works a bit differently. But it's not useless, and it uses its own ammo instead of using the same cells as the plasma gun. Grenades, yeah, we have grenades now. They're one of the most useless weapons. But they can still be handy when you need to make sure that no one is waiting for you behind the corner. You just toss a grenade and wait. If you see the red donut, then somebody was there. There you go, life hack. And the most imbalanced weapon, the Soul Cube. Weapon that requires some sacrifices to start functioning. But it one-shots most of your enemies and four-shots a cyber demon in the end. And doing this, the Soul Cube restores your health to the full. Good weapon, helps out with Archviles and Hell Knights. Really good weapon. Imbalanced, but I love it. Meanwhile, you have a long task to regroup with the Bravo team. The task is so long actually that they die before you join them. But yeah, I already spoiled that for you. And first, you have to prevent the reactor meltdown because someone shot the cooling system, we remember that. Yeah, it was the Bravo team. And then you have to meet Bravo team somewhere in the communications where they are sent to call for reinforcements because somebody has to hold a flashlight while our Marines shoot, right? They cannot do that at the same time, remember that? Oh well. By the way, this is the place they die, the communications. And that's where the storytelling approach changes. Instead of listening to Sarge telling you what to do and where to go, you can choose to send a call for reinforcement or not send a call. But to be honest here, nothing changes whether you send call or you don't send call. Swan tells you to not send the call because we have no idea what we're dealing with, and the Sarge tells you to send the call. Either way, if you do or you don't, the call is sent anyway. If you refuse to send the call, the Sarge is unhappy, but the Betrugger sends the call anyway. If you send the call, well, Swan is unhappy, Sarge is happy, Betrugger is happy, but again, it doesn't change anything. The game just goes on without ever noticing that you have made a decision. And about an hour of your life was actually wasted for some useless decision that will not change anything. Way to go, ID Software, way to go! Value my time less, please. I don't feel like I'm wasting it playing Doom 3. But nevertheless, after you make the decision, you go to Delta Labs to find that the Soul Cube is not there, and you have to travel through the set of teleporters to find the teleport to Hell. Of course, Betrugger watches over you and is happy to announce that soon his armies are going to invade the Earth and you should be happy for him. Yeah, I'm happy, old man. Very nice. Congratulations on your project. I would have been a little bit happier if it was a giant origami castle, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Maybe it's time to talk about yet another hindrance to a player. The damage effect. When you receive any damage, literally any damage, your camera bobs really hard. And I mean really hard, so hard that if you try to shoot someone but got hurt, you miss. And yes, even point blank, you miss. Now you might get the general idea what is the real power of every weak enemies in large group. They can constantly damage you. And you cannot shoot anyone around you because your head constantly bobs with your weapon. That's not useful, but I wouldn't hold it against the game, seriously. The fact that most of the times you can't see a thing, you have no reliable weapons for medium distances, and if you will never see the direction from where the hit came in, the situation is already harder than it should have been. And adding a head bobbing to that is almost nothing. But you know what? Considering all those hindrances, it makes me feel that our Marine is actually from the Special Forces. And you know, the Special Forces which uses the short bus to ride to the base. All those obstacles, they don't feel natural to me. They feel artificial. Like someone was trying really hard to make this game harder for you, to make you feel more vulnerable while having all those weapons with you. But the game is still manageable, so we might as well proceed through Hell. Hell has some places with arenas of various sizes and with various enemies. Hell Knights become more regular guests, and Hell is the second place you encounter Mancubi. But those are fine, really, no problem with them. The problem I had was the dark corridor with no light and one Hell Knight that stands in one corner and hits you if you don't have enough ammo. Actually, it hits you anyway because splash damage, it hits you, and the corridor is not wide enough. So enjoy. And you don't usually have enough ammo because you had an encounter with Mancubi, Fly Children, with another Hell Knight before that. Or maybe it was just me and I'm a total scrub, but in any case, I came to that Hell Knight with no weapons, with no ammo. I came to that Hell Knight with just a chainsaw. And yes, I died a lot of times, about a dozen times, but in the end, I have managed to chainsaw the bugger to death. Yes, I have my own personal achievement. I have chainsawed the Hell Knight in Doom 3 to death. In general, Hell has quite a generous amount of health packs. And the whole hell encounter ends with yet another boss fight, when you will cry for some weapons to crowd control in the middle distance. The boss is, wait for it, Blind Guardian. No, seriously, the beast is called Guardian, and it's blind. And it took me this much time to put it together. Guardian has some things that fly around you and light up your way. It would have been good, really, but the downside is that the Guardian can see you too. So you have to shoot the flying things and wait for Guardian to spawn more. He's vulnerable at the time. Repeat about 3 times and you're set. Soul Cube is yours and you can go back home. But I would rather stop a little bit for the Guardian. Those flying things the Guardian spawns have a similar to Cacodemon flying pattern. They try to stay a middle distance from you. They're not trying to eat you up, they're not trying to get as far as they can, just in general, standing in the middle ground. And you cannot shoot them with a shotgun. Well, you can, but you will have to waste about 3 shotgun blasts for each one. Maybe you would decide to use plasma weapon, but the plasma is easily avoidable, it's not a hit scan weapon. You could also try assault rifle, but you will have to reload every 1.5 flying thing, so basically you will want to have something like chain gun. But most of the times it's gonna be assault rifle or the plasma rifle. Although I would recommend using rocket launcher and plasma gun on the Guardian itself, because it's way easier to kill it with those. So there you go, another life hack from the Duck. But anyway, somehow after obtaining the Soul Cube, we are back to Mars. And again, you lose all your weapons for some reason, and you will have to grab everything once again. This time BFG is not in the safe of the security officer, but it's in possession of that Sarge, who sent you to and from everywhere at the first half of the game. And this Sarge is annoyed as ever. Of course, with no reasoning or anything, he has already mutated in a tank person, a little bit like Strog from Quake 2, the first Tankman boss. But he is a little bit different, just different enough to not be a Strog guy. He shoots you with BFG. It's actually quite a fair fight. You can try and practice your marksmanship while shooting BFG projectiles, or you can shoot a lot of chain gun ammo into a Sarge and finish him up with a Soul Cube. The game gives you the choice and goes out of its way to reintroduce you to the BFG shooting principle. Apparently, every projectile has a microprocessor in it that can identify friendlies and in the field not harm them. But it also means that the projectile can be shot down and the main explosion will not happen. Good explanation, useless, but good explanation nevertheless. So, the Sarge is there to grant you your BFG privilege back, and you can proceed to the dig site, where everything has started, but I really zoned out and I can't really say how do you know where the dig site is and why do you have to go there. In any case, you go there and you encounter some really heavy resistance. Another confined room with 2 Hell Knights, but this time you have an Archvile to spice things up. Then another room with 2 giant spiders with telekinetic abilities, and finally a secret room with some very dry thanks from John Carmack and some more sincere thanks from others from ID Software Studios. I just felt that I need to mention that room. It was actually not very hard to find, and if you're going to play Doom 3, you have to find that room. Seriously, just read about stuff. Read about things people in ID Software was interested during the development or after the development of Doom 3. Your final boss is the Cyber Demon. When you first encountered the Soul Cube, it told you that only with the Soul Cube you can defeat the champion of Hell, which is apparently the Cyber Demon. The fight itself is really easy. Run around the hellhole with a rocket launcher, shoot at demons who come out of the hellhole, wait for the soul cube to charge, throw it at cyber demon and repeat 4 times. The arena is big, it's quite well lit. It's easy to understand what is happening and it's easy to plan your actions. And the only time I got damaged there, it was when I shot rockets point blank because it was faster and easier than switching to anything else. After all, the soul cube is going to restore my health anyway, so what's the point of conserving my health? And this is the best time to mention the inconsistency of the damage. You can die with 100 armor. Yep, armor means nothing anymore, but it's scattered much more generously on the levels than the health packs. Why is the armor like that? I have no explanation really, I didn't find any explanation. But my only thought was that armor was supposed to be like in a classic Doom armor, but then one of the hardest difficulties, no one died, and people decided to make things more challenging by tuning the armor and not the maps, and not the enemies, and not the weapons. But that's just a pure speculation, nothing else. Maybe I am very wrong. Maybe I could not be farther from truth. But this is my whole idea about it. But hey, that's the whole game. After you defeat the cyber demon, the soul cube waddles away through the hellhole, sealing it away for good. You are discovered by the reinforcements, and you are the only survivor because Betrugger now is in hell. And I have no idea if he won anything or not. Seriously, what was his plan? To invade Earth? The plan failed. But in the end we see a happy, laughing Betrugger turned into some kind of a gargoyle, but much more menacing. So, did he win? Did he win a place in hell? I don't get it. I don't get it. What kind of 4D underwater chess is that? But whatever. The story is janky. As Carmack used to say, the story in the game should be like the story in a porn movie. It should be there, but it shouldn't be in the first place. This, Doom 3, is the pinnacle of the story being in third place. If you don't specifically pay attention to audio logs, dialogues, email in the PDAs and other sideshow materials, you will just go from place to place with no real reason for it. And it should not be a problem. The problem is that the gameplay, to back up this story, is not perfect. The gameplay should be just great, amazing, like in BioShock, like in System Shock, or other System Shock 2. But in any case, the gameplay should back it up, but the gameplay is not where the Doom 3 shines. Doom 3 tried to tap into a territory of more modern shooters like Halo, Half-Life, maybe Call of Duty even. And it didn't do anything better. It broke some things that worked in Half-Life, where you didn't have any cutscenes apart from beginning and the end. It broke the pacing of Halo, where you had to prioritize your targets and use appropriate weapon. Choose the weapon or use grenades and speed to run away from the enemy. Doom 3 tried to be what it never meant to be. Some kind of a horror game, but with guns. Well, it is a horror game. The amount of jump scares is just amazing. And I'm not sure it's a good thing for the shooter, but it's there. They are there, all the jump scares, enjoy them. But the gameplay is so specific. It appeals to a very niche and quite small audience. They love what they got, but the most original Doom and Quake players did not like what they saw, and Doom 3 upon release encountered the most harsh criticism than ever again in its lifetime. Even now, when I say that Doom 3 has problems, I am not as brutal as fans of ID Software back in the days. And again, don't get me wrong, I do mean fans of ID Software. There were a lot of fanboys of ID Software in the press, in every media. There were a lot of people who were just hyped for the Doom 3, and they got a horror game. That was not what they expected. They were expected Doom, but better, or Quake, but in Doom mode. And they got nothing. But the lessons were learned and the conclusions were made. Doom 3 is the only game ID Software has that is so unique. Everything else after it was more or less traditional shooters where the gunplay is sort of fun and the shotgun is not a melee weapon. Yes, even in Rage, the shotgun is better. And I promised to tell you something about the engine, right? Not a lot of other games were created with the ID Tech 4, but the games were mostly good, better than Doom 3, every last one of them. Quake 4 by Raven Software, Wolfenstein by the same Ravens, and in my opinion the best one, Prey. Doom 3 was not the best, but it was the darkest one. It was absolutely the most dark game ever made on ID Tech 4. Good or bad, it was an experiment, a creative experiment, and it will be remembered because Doom 3 is not a bad game. It's a bad Doom sequel, but it's not a bad game at all. It lacks some polish, but it's a good game. You can have fun with it. Just don't expect it to be fun that you had with the previous Doom games. Doom 3 narrative relies quite heavily on audio logs and readables, like BioShock before BioShock. It had a weapon that had to be charged in the battlefield before you could use it. And I would say it's a good innovative idea. And it had some really bad ideas. Like babies with the bodies of the flies. Who designed that? Seriously, anybody knows who designed that? That is atrocious. Whose idea was that to make baby-sounding, baby-looking, jumping enemy? What was transformed into those? Why there were babies on the Martian facility? Why there were so many of them? Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Before we go into the rant, if you want to have more of the podcast, feel free to binge listen to it and recommend it to your friends, families, and people who work harder than any of us terraforming Mars. Have any questions or comments? Feel free to contact me by email mrangryducky@docracy.com or poke me on Twitter @Ducky_angry. As usual, big thanks goes to Patreon supporters. Those people are great and I wouldn't be able to do those podcasts without them. Next time, something else amazing and astonishing. Same Duck channel. As for today, Duck off.
By the Emperor and Superior Firepower, Duck in Games podcast is a part of Geeks Rising Network.